got another eulogy in me. I had the honor of escorting my parents out of this world. It's kind of generally known after a few years of elder care, after having been adopted, and after having been part of this family for my whole life. In 2022, I was able to end that and bid my mother blessings in eternity in a eulogy at her memorial. And I was adopted, and there was another mother. My birth mother actually passed away just this year, and so I woke up today, and this is just on my plate, and so I'm gonna throw this out there because I did not have the opportunity to express any eulogy towards Lynda, who is my birth mother. I have, for whatever reasons, become a stranger amongst my mother's children, and I knew that the transition process was rolling with her. I was kept abreast of her condition, or her hospice care, and so I've honestly got so much on my plate as far as ending the elder care and getting on with my own life and breathing easy for the first time in my life. That's the season I'm in right now. I am breathing easy for the first time in my life, and I'm actually becoming aware of what my own preferences are. Because there's just a history here that I want to unpack, because before any proper eulogies expressed towards Lynda, there is just a plain statement of the allotment that I was given in this life. And this isn't coming from a place of angst. I don't feel any angst. I feel love. I want to express this. I want to get this out. But I was unburdened from a lot of other people's expectations, and I mean, from the get-go, I was put up for adoption, and there was a conflict between Lynda and her mother, my mother and my grandmother. There was the prospects of having me aborted in 1965 or 1966, which thankfully didn't happen. And then I was secreted away to Traverse City, where I was given birth and put up for adoption immediately out of the delivery room. And so, as I am looking towards the prospects of actually doing a eulogy for Lynda, I want to make this statement. And there was a conflict between Lynda and her mother. Lynda was torn. She was immature. She wanted to keep me. She wasn't able to. And, there was just a reproach in the family that wasn't facilitating me being reared there. So I went somewhere else. And, in the process of getting to know Lynda, I know that there was a lot of unresolved issues in her heart towards the way her mother behaved, and just the whole their relationship as it was, and then the prospects of me coming along was I think that further drove a wedge between them. And then my grandmother died in 1972, but even in the years that I was in correspondence with Lynda, and there were good years, there were prayerful years, we were able to get in touch with a lot of stuff, and I learned a lot of stuff. that was necessary. There's some pieces of my past that were put together, and I so appreciate her place in my life during that time. I appreciate the fact that she brought me into this world. But the circumstances need stating, which are that the burden that she carried, the woundedness, the trauma that she carried because of the abuse from her mother, was something that I carried. And I've carried her burden even from birth, and just the whole fact that she had this dysfunctional rapport with her mother, and then I end up coming into this world and I end up being adopted into a family. Good people, my parents are good people, but it was being raised, it was a narcissistic, negative. There's a lot of negative feminine energy in the household where I was raised, which I think was and acting out. It was a burden. It was like I was carrying Lynda's burden, and I ended up projecting things that were endued upon me from the womb, and it ended up being my reality. That her relationship with her mother, and so that and I count it as such an honor to be able to have done the elder care for Mama. And regardless of the vices, we've all got issues in our families, and there's always, things that come up in traumas, and people hurt and get hurt. But yeah, there's things that I remember from being a kid, though, that were traumatic. It was a narcissistic environment with a lot of negative feminine energy, and there were instances that I remember of cat fights between Mama and my sisters that actually left me traumatized. There's times that I would crawl under my bed and just cry and cry and cry until they shut up. And just that whole controlling environment. It was just I was like replaying. I was taking the environment that Lynda bore me in, and I took it and I replicated it, and it was like I've been carrying this burden my whole life, and I brought it and I carried it to the end, because when the elder care first started, when it first started revving up, actually in 2018, I visited. I had never visited my biological grandmother's grave. And I went to my biological grandmother's grave, and I had communion there, and I talked to the Lord. And I told Lynda, and this is important in segueing into me letting go of these burdens, because I made peace with my grandmother. I never knew her, and I don't have a recollection of her. I know that, just from what was told me, that there was things that she did that affected me. There's things that Lynda did that affected me, but I ended up becoming a co-victim with Lynda instead of being my own person and carrying her burden from the wound. I became a co-victim with her instead of being my own person. It was like I'm carrying this burden, and I needed to let it go. And so I went to Lucille Sheldon's gravesite in Petoskey, Michigan, and I talked to God. I had communion. I released it. I let it go, and that was healing. That was pivotal for me. And for whatever reason after that, I was in correspondence with Lynda, infrequently during that period, and suddenly I told her what I had done, and she blocked me on Facebook. I pulled the trigger. It was like I was being my own person and standing in my own right, and not participating in the co-victim narrative that she had created. So that was unexpected and hurtful. And that was the last time that I had correspondence with her until she passed away this last May 14, 2025. But that was necessary because that confronting Lucille Sheldon, forgiving Lucille Sheldon, laying down Lynda's burden of Lucille Sheldon, her mother, was so necessary for me to be free to care for my adopted mother, Mama. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't resolved that burden and that issue that Lynda carried towards her mother. If I hadn't laid that down, I wouldn't have been in a place where I would be able to care for my adopted mother, which the way that I did. And I became friends with Mama. It's like, regardless of the dysfunctional, feminine, negative energy, abuse, like catfight scenarios that I could cite, I became friends with Mama. In her limited capacity, it was like we went on dates. I would cook for her. She had a sense of humor. It was such an endearing period, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't resolved and made peace with Lucille Sheldon at that gravesite in Petoskey. My heart wouldn't have been free to be there for my mama. And being a stranger to my mother's children and being put off by them and being blocked by Lynda on Facebook, they don't understand that dynamic. They will one day. I don't have to belabor the issue and say, you don't know, they don't know, but they will. And that's okay. And in the meantime, I'm still a stranger amongst my mother's children. But yeah, at this point, I am at a place of just being myself, unburdened. It seems like, there was a destiny scroll in heaven for me, and it was just being there, carrying these burdens, escorting my adopted parents out of the world the way that I did. And it was just like this, it all seemed to me to be, is this it? Is this my purpose? Is this my destiny for being here? And it was like, okay, God, I can check out now. If this is what, is fulfilled, that I walk these people to the end, and I was a son in this family, and those burdens are gone now. So you can take me home, God. And I'm just filled with such today, it's so lucid for me today, because I earnestly feel that this is something that's not over, and it's my burdens being laid down, and it's actually the beginning of my life, because I'm like I said, I'm breathing easy. I'm sorting my own preferences. I'm supported. I'm just feeling good, comfortable in my own skin, not ascribing to anybody else's narratives, and just being myself. And so that's where I am in life right now. And that's, and I have to resolve and be rooted and founded in this perspective. I really want to do a eulogy. I want to do a eulogy video for Lynda, because there were endearing things through the years that I knew her that need to come out, and I need to honor her. I honored my parents. I honored my adopted parents, and she needs honor. I want to honor her. However, like I said, this needed to be plainly stated, that I'm in a new place. I'm being myself, breathing easy, and it's good. It's good.